Hi, everybody, it's me, Nobody, and welcome to the 7th annual Homelessness Marathon, live from outside of St. Malachy's Center on the streets of Cleveland, Ohio. We are going to do a lot of things tonight. If you've never listened to the Homelessness Marathon before, this is your night to meet homeless people, hear their stories, understand the obstacles they face. We're going to hear from experts about many dimensions of this problem. We're going to ask the question, why do we have homelessness in the richest country on the face of the earth? But the first thing I'm going to do is what I do every year. I'm going to light a candle, a little candle that I have here in front of me on the table of my broadcast booth. We call it the Tabernacle of Truth, erected out here on the street. And I'm going to light this candle as a memorial candle for all of the homeless people who have died homeless, who have died on the street, who have died in shelters, who have died in transitional housing, who have died in doorways, have died in subways. Because if there's one thing we want to remember about homelessness, it's a matter of life and death for the people who are homeless. We want to remember that this is not just a political issue. We want to remember that this is a human tragedy. Let me toss this question out to the three of you. There are so many homeless veterans, and historically I studied it. I know there's homeless veterans pretty much after every war, going back to the Civil War anyway. Do you think that there is any reason why homelessness particularly hits veterans? Do you think it's something to do with what you're not prepared for or something in the service? Or is it, do you have any ideas why?
Well, Johnny, I think it hit veterans mostly because they're under a lot of stress, away from home, away from their family, away from their children and wives, and they get to go. Sometimes they get to go into combat, be under fire from the enemy, and that's a lot of stress. So they start off by drinking, and then eventually you get tired of drinking and want to turn to something else, and that's how I see it.
I was a little bit younger, and I did not serve in Vietnam or Vietnam era. But when I went into the military, I was a little bit naive and kind of young per se. I was 21 years old, but I had not, I grew up in kind of a sheltered life, sheltered family life. And I was quite a bit naive and really had no life skills for regular life. In the real world, right, so to speak. And while I was in the military, I really didn't get any of that. I just was taught how to work on aircraft and how to take care of the things that I had to take care of for the Navy and some things for myself, but I was not really schooled on how to handle real life situations. And I drank a little bit and messed around a little bit of marijuana before I went into the military, but when I was in the military, it really escalated. And I feel inside that's when my disease of alcoholism really kicked in and took off like a rocket, because everything was accessible. And it was almost the same thing with Johnny. I wanted out. Right. I wanted out. They weren't really offering me any kind of help or basically telling me that I needed to get this help. Right. They were just telling me that I had a problem, that something was wrong with me, and they weren't telling me what was going on. So I was just kind of lost, and I just wanted out. I'm starting to get my life together now, and I'm having a hard time finding a job because nobody wants to hire someone with basically the track record that I have for employment. Okay. Some of the jobs that I've had, I was a very good worker at. Anybody that knows people that are in recovery will tell you that we're very hard workers, right, very hard workers, and we just need to get that chance. We need someone to give us that chance to get back into the workforce, to get back into living life and becoming useful citizens again. So people don't look at us and look down their nose at us and so on.
Is this a case of God may forgive you, but society won't?
Bingo. You got it right there. God, my God looks at me and he says, you know what? He says, whatever you've done, it's okay. But get up and wipe yourself off and move forward. And society doesn't do that. They still look down their nose at you and say, you know what? You're not worthy. You're not worth it.
This is what we're trying to get across anyway. whenever you can't empathize or sympathize with an individual who has a serious addiction and who has a serious disease, an illness, when you cannot put yourself in that same person's situation or that same person's place, it's easy to talk about what you can and cannot do. I don't think anybody out there can actually live safely, comfortably, whatever you want to call it, off of $200 and some a week, a month. Plus, you have a disease, you have an illness. You sit up there, go and see how much it costs to try and treat a person with an illness.
I've already been there. I know what it's all about.
Well, James,
I had a cocaine addiction. I had a heroin addiction when I come back to Vietnam. I done all that. Smoked weed, done crack, took pills. I done it all. But I'm out here working every day. Every day.
Do you do it alone?
No drugs. Occasionally I have a beer or two.
Do you do it alone?
Well, I got to stay away from dope.
Are you single or are you married?
I'm married.
Then you have an additional partner to help you shell out any of the additional money for expenses. You're talking about a man who's by himself.
Okay, hang on a second, everybody. James, first of all, everybody in this booth, I am quite sure, is happy for you that you got a home. Nobody would wish you to be homeless.
Right.
And everybody respects you for that. So
Yes, I do.
there's no argument there. But what do you think? Never mind just these three in the booth. You know, James, a lot of the guys you served with wound up homeless. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know a lot of them did because that war did a lot of damage to a lot of people. But the ones who really got the damage are not out there asking somebody to help them. They're doing that on their own and they're getting their own help.
Most of them can't ask for assistance
Okay,
because their brain
whatever,
is so
whatever.
fried or their system is so shocked
James,
out that they can't do it. They
James,
can't ask.
Okay, James, these guys, they are taking responsibility. Every one of these guys says they messed up and they're trying to get their lives back together. In your opinion, James, should society help people who they admit they messed up and wound up homeless? And do you think society should help these people?
Well, just to be honest with you, I don't think we owe them anything. But the point is, if they're really trying to help and they're really trying to do something to get their life back on, I'll be the first to step out there and help them.
Can you tell us something about the rent to minimum wage ratio, or however we want to put it, in Cleveland? Will a minimum wage job get you housing in Cleveland?
The housing wage in Cleveland is about $14.46. So that's what you have to make per hour at a standard job, 40-hour-a-week job, to be able to afford the fair market rent in the city of Cleveland.
And are there just a few workers in Cleveland who are not making $14.40 an hour?
Well, I think the statistics are that about the last statistics were about 26% of the population live below the poverty level, so they're not even close to that $14. So there's maybe half of the population of the city of Cleveland don't make that housing wage.
There's handicap shelters for men. There's not handicap shelters for women. They don't like to deal when you're in a wheelchair or when you can't walk or when you can't talk. And there's times that I'm normal and there's other times that I'm crippled up. And the women's shelter does not want to deal with that. They told me to go to a nursing home.
The thing that people don't understand about people that are homeless, we want to work. And just because we're standing outside waiting for the job does not mean we don't want to work.
We are fighting a battle, okay, that nobody thinks, okay, that we're going to win, okay? We have to show them that we can. We have to be stronger than they think we are.
Everybody thinks that they're just having a bad break, they're lazy, blah, blah, blah. It's not all about that. There's a small percentage that are mentally ill, and you're not going to get back into the workforce, and you're not going to be able to highly function in society. But we have to love it in spite of that.
And it's very difficult for me to believe that we as a people of the United States, one of the richest countries in the world, don't value our human resources. That we would rather put our money into streets and beautiful buildings and facilities for the well-to-do and forget, as you say, kick our mentally ill brothers and sisters to the street.
And were you crashing with people in their houses? I used to barefoot. Constant by the homeless.
Yeah, I'm a resident at 2100. Yes, one of the largest shelters of this kind in the nation. And I want to say that we didn't come from another planet. The individuals in the shelter came from the community. And so the reasons why that we're in the shelter are the same reasons and issues that Americans are facing right now throughout the country. We're not asking for individuals to do things for us. One of the great things about 2100 is that it has incentives to make us self-sufficient, independent. We have weekly goals that we have to reach, take action steps. So we're just not a group of men and individuals who are just sitting there looking for handouts. We have skills, we have education, we have a lot of valuable intellectual assets that can be used not only to help ourselves, but to help our community. The problem that we face is outside. There are barriers to the entry. For example, we have 100 men every night who sleep on the floor. Because the resources are there, but there are barriers to those resources. For example, we were told that we're going to have another building where it's called overflow, where 100 men sleep outside. We've been fortunate to put it inside on the floor. But why are we just getting promises where throughout this city, throughout this country, there are vacant buildings? We have individuals who have skills, carpenters, painters. We're willing to do the work, provide housing for ourselves. We have women and children who need housing. We have union people across the country who are not working. So even those in the shelters who don't have the skills that are necessary to do quality work, by apprenticing with those union workers, putting them back to work, we can provide shelter for everyone that's homeless in this country. There's no shortage of vacant buildings.
And you're the next caller. All right, thank you.
I want to welcome my other co-host, Indio, is now back on the line. Indio,
Gino, Fresno, California. He's going to be homeless very soon, he said, but he's not.
We lost Indio and we weren't sure if we'd know how to get him back on. He's back on.
I heard you. I was in your bed.
Oh, you were in there?
I went, oh boy.
You know, it's funny when my kids started moving away from home, they would say, "Mom, just write down the recipe for this favorite dish that Mom always made, right?" And Mom would sit there with this piece of paper and say, "I can't write it down because I don't do it with measurements anymore. I put some of this in and then I put in that until it looks pretty." And it's like, I can't write this.
We're not here to just taste it, we're here to eat it, right? Nah, get him laugh. Look at that laugh.
Oh, come on. Those are the best ones, though. All right. We're cooking now. It's a good thing I don't eat pancakes, isn't it?
And then you know they're young, too.
I wonder why it wants to stick.
I don't know. A lot of people trying to keep you from that.
You don't want people to think we're going to feed the homeless on this stuff, do you?
No. But we did use milk to make it more nutritious.
Yeah, we did. Which is probably part of the problem.
My mother was always trying to hold on to different jobs, and she couldn't make her jobs right. We had to stay in and out with peoples, and so I got to where I wanted to leave home. I was running away from home. I was an unhappy child, so as I got older, I ended up in different homes, different homes. I wasn't happy. I wasn't myself at the time. And when I came to Cleveland, to experience my life. But I started working at the temp service. And when I was working at the temp service, it wasn't enough because I get a disability check. And I went to the mental health and different places reaching out, and they couldn't help me reach my destiny or my needs, the things that I was trying to do with myself. And I felt like I didn't have no peace with who I was around in the shelters, and I got put out of different places, mainly too because it was a spiritually thing, I was raised up in the church, but it was like everything was more hard on me because, they think just because you grown that you gotta you can get a job just like this. And I mean, you got to have that maturity, and you need somebody's support on a lot of base, the guidance that is struggling in your life to find your needs and what you need. It's not easy, and a lot of people they do be against the poor, but they don't understand Jesus was poor, and he was for the homeless, the poor and needy. I'm not giving up, and I don't want nobody to feel sorry for me, and I know I'm a strong woman because I've been living under the bridges. I've been living on 21st and Superior, right in front of the Plain Dealer. We was all in tents. It was time that, I was back and forth. I was staying with my family, but I couldn't get nowhere. When I wanted jobs, I couldn't. Sometimes I had to stay outside to get the things that I want done with myself.
50 to 75% of deaf people are unemployed.
Forgive my ignorance, but you would think this is the computer age and a deaf person can do a keyboard data entry job, lots of things like that where you don't have to hear.
Exactly. Saying, like the companies will not hire a person because they're deaf, and they're like, oh, it'd be a big liability to hire a deaf person. Most employees, a lot of hearing employees will use ear protection within their job to protect their hearing. So if you hire a deaf person, you wouldn't have to worry about that.